Welcome to One of Those, the show that explores the art of sneaker culture. I'm your host, Adam Butler, back with another episode. Thank you so kindly for being here. So we got a short intro for you guys today because I have a super exciting show to get you guys to. I'm not going to waste a lot of time. We're going to get right to this show because today my guest is my man, Omar Bailey. Now, Omar Bailey is the co-founder of FCTRY LAB, but he's also the former head of the Yeezy Innovation Lab. So that means a lot of those Yeezys y'all rock, my man has something to do with them, man. He's been in the sneaker game for a long time. In fact, his story is super fascinating, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time. We're going to jump right into it. Without further ado, my man, Omar Bailey. Omar, welcome to the show, man.
How you doing, man? Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Oh man, no problem at all, man. I like what you got back there, bro. It's looking good. The collection's looking good, sir.
Yeah, man. You know, some of the old product, some
Yeah.
of it I had my hands on bringing to real life or helped with. And others are just from my time at Yeezy, man. So, you know, I got all the boxes, lots of other shoes. This is just like a fraction of it.
Yeah.
I got a whole storage unit filled with even more stuff.
Oh, that's amazing, man. So let's talk about that. You started working with Yeezy, but talk to me about how you even got to that point.
Yeah, man. It's been a long road, man. You know, I'm originally from the East Coast and born in New York. You know,
Nice.
both my parents from Jamaica, from the Caribbean. You know, they came to this country with sort of dreams and hopes to like, you know, of the whole sort of white picket fence, like American dream, you know, type thing. And you know, I started drawing sneakers when I was 7. It's kind of strange, when I think about it now, as a 7-year-old start drawing sneakers. But you know, when I reflect and think back on it, it had a lot to do with, you know, in the early 90s, you know, a lot of people who might not be old enough to remember that could be listening to this. You know, when Jordans first hit the scene, there was a lot of like violence around the shoes, man. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it was just so much demand and not enough supply. And, you know, the way MJ was just captivating, you know, the country and the world through his game and his charisma and his personality. And all of that just kind of led to this like moment where, you know, there was just so much violence around people wanting to get their hands on the shoes. So that really scared the hell out of my parents. And they were like, no way, we're buying you these sneakers.
Right. Yeah.
So I started drawing them as a result of it. I figured if I can have them in real life, then, you know, drawing them on paper was good enough, you know, for
Yeah.
me. So, you know, we ended up relocating to Florida, down in West Palm Beach, some years later, after being born and growing up partially in New York City. And I went to art school. And in that art school, I kept drawing sneakers. And all the while, you know, the one thing I'll mention is I never knew that like there was a path for footwear. You know, this was like early mid 90s. So there was no Google. There was no Instagram. There was no Facebook. There was none of that shit. It was still like, you know, maybe like 1 out of every 10 houses had a computer, if that. And it took like 25 minutes just to get online. So, right. Like, so there was no Google or Yahoo to like
Yeah.
search anything. So it was just strictly based on like my own intuition and East Bay magazine. That was like the thing that I would reference all the time.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
East Bay's come in, you know, you always look forward to that next one, like, you know, what new products are going to be dropping, and that was my reference point. So all my
Yeah.
sketches and drawings looked like East Bay ads, but I was designing my own shoes. But then I would do all the stuff that East Bay would do around it, whether it was like a graphic for a new shoe coming out, or I would guess the weight of the shoe or come up with the name. And these are the things that I did. That was the only reference point that I had. So I just,
Yeah.
you know, I followed that, you know, and that was a really incredible time for me, just in terms of finding myself and sketching and drawing. And then, you know, I got super lucky, man. And, you know, when at my senior year of high school, you know, I wasn't a great student either in school. It was more about like, for me, it was all about drawing. I like crushed it in my drawing classes, but didn't take the class serious. And that was because I didn't think about going to college. You know, there's a lot of people who don't think about, you know, like you trying to figure out what you want to do for your life, with your life and all this stuff. And again, I didn't know there was a path into footwear. I thought the best that it could get for me was, okay, I'm going to get a job at Foot Locker. Then I'm going to like work to be the manager. And then maybe I could get to Nike that way. Right. And that was what I thought, but I was wrong. And then when I was in school, I found out about this school from Detroit, Michigan, came on a recruiting visit to recruit students, and they showed the portfolio. In that portfolio was a pair of shoes that immediately caught my interest. I wanted to know, like, okay, what is this about? And they explain this program called industrial design. And then
Mm.
industrial design is the pathway that leads you into not only footwear, but it can lead you into product design, automotive design, sort of all these different things. So now all of a sudden my mind is blown. I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah.
like crazy. How can I be a part of this? So, they were like, well, you can apply to get in and get your portfolio right. And that's what I did. And I just, I got my head in my books. I focused on trying to get my grades up.
Mhm.
I got my portfolio diversified, so it was more than just sneakers that looked like they were in an East Bay catalog, but I was
Yeah.
able to do other things. And I applied and I got in, man. And that was a game changer for me, being able to go that. I bring that moment up because I feel like
Mhm.
that was like sort of the first time in my life that I made like a real serious decision and like
Yeah.
stayed committed to it and was
Yeah.
able to accomplish something. So yeah.
That is amazing, man. I talk to a lot of people on this show, and people that work in sneaker media, people that were doing like NFTs, things like that, right? It's rare when I get to talk to somebody that's in the design side of it and really
Mhm.
hear about like how that was, especially for you, that was always in you. Like you're telling me, like I used to read, I consider myself a huge sneakerhead. I love sneakers, right?
Yeah.
I got East Bay just like everybody else. My inspiration was basketball. And as I
Mhm.
got older, I started appreciating the art behind the sneaker, but I never thought about the technology behind the sneaker and
Yeah.
how you're saying like you used to try to guess the weight of the sneaker.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, my brain always kind of worked like that, which is which is
Yeah.
which is interesting why I am doing kind of what I'm doing today too.
Yeah.
Sort of little like fun fact too. My dad, like, he grew up in Jamaica and he actually
Mhm.
worked at a shoe repair shop. And I didn't
Yeah.
find this out till like 5, 6 years ago. And
Word.
he knows how to make shoes by hand. I'm like, how am I like, 35 and just now finding out about this? This is crazy.
Yeah.
But I guess it's in the blood, man. So yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So you're a guy that in a time a very young man that clearly wants to get into the game. You clearly want to get into sneaker design. You just
Right.
walk me through the path of how you got the technical skills and the resume, if you will, to be able to or the yeah, like the resume to get to where you wanted to get. How do you end up at Adidas and at Yeezy?
Well, shoot, man. So once I got into this school, right, with the
Mm,
industrial design, and then that led me down this path where, I had an opportunity. Actually, I did an internship with Adidas even
mm.
before working with Yeezy. That was in what 2004 or something like
Okay.
that,
Mm,
2003, 2004.
yeah.
So New Balance, Adidas, K Swiss were some of the brands that I got to work with
Mhm.
as a college student, and that really just kind of opened up my eyes. And then when I finished school, I immediately started working for myself. The one thing that the internships taught me that I didn't necessarily want to like work corporate right away. I wanted to
Mm,
like do my own thing. I always had that entrepreneurial type of bug in me
sure.
to like want to work for myself. So my first two clients that I had the opportunity to work with were Gary Sheffield and Allen Houston. They were
Mm,
both like, still at the top of their game as, Chef playing baseball, Al playing basketball. And they both wanted to do their own shoe. And these two
mm,
projects brought me to China for the first time. And
mm,
this is where like things really opened up for me. I thought design was kind of the end all be all, but you find out very quickly that it's just the very tip of the iceberg.
mm.
There's all this other stuff that happens beneath the surface when you talk
Yeah.
about supply chain, you're talking about relationship building, you're talking about the factories, logistics.
Yeah.
There's so many parts in that. And then you get into the actual production of the shoe, you're talking about materials and processes and applications and kind of how all that stuff came together. So, I became like super obsessed with that. And, I spent many, many years in China. I lived in India,
Mm,
actually in a little small town called Haryana for
mm,
almost 3 years, where I worked with this brand Lotto, an Italian sportswear brand. I ran their sample lab and part of their shoe factory, and I was
mm.
designing shoes for the Indian and the Gulf market. So that's like
Wow.
Bahrain and Dubai and Qatar and like
Mm,
all those different countries.
yeah.
I even launched my own brand,
Mm,
out there. I had a small factory in New York with one of my old business partners. And there we were doing a lot of cool stuff with like people from T-Pain and Terry Crews and Jose Bautista. And,
Yeah.
I did work with Supreme and Rockaware for Jay-Z and a lot of
Wow.
stuff. So, I had a very diverse experience.
Yeah.
Um, and a very diverse background and in terms of different types of projects and people I
Hmm.
got to work on. And I like, it was as hard as it was. There were many times where I had to, didn't have any money or a pot to piss in. And,
Yeah.
I was sitting in my office and just and trying to figure out sort of how to get by. But when I reflect on it, those are really some, incredible moments that built me up to this day. So,
Absolutely.
so they kind of that all was kind of packaged in this like 15-year window, all that stuff that I
Hmm.
mentioned that happened. So I was in India, I was wrapping up my stuff that I was doing in India. And I was thinking about like kind of what was the next move for me. And Adidas reached out and
Mm.
mentioned that that they wanted to build have a sample lab or innovation lab or domestic facility
Yeah.
to realize Kanye's concepts and bring them to life. And they
Hmm.
felt like I was a good candidate with a good pedigree to run such a facility. I came out to
Yeah.
LA for an interview. Met with the some of the executives at Adidas, and
Hmm.
they took me to Calabasas and threw me in a room with Ye, and we had a really great meeting. I came out and I had a job, and I was the
Yeah.
head of the lab for Yeezy. And I was working with a fantastic team of shoemakers, 3D
Hmm.
modelers, experts in design and many different disciplines. And we came together
Yeah.
as a group, and I led my team to be able to sort of realize and build some of these concepts, and bring them to life in collaboration with our entire team. So,
Yeah.
I did that for 3 years, and it was an incredible experience. I even lived in Cody, Wyoming for a year
Hmm.
and a half. That was also a very interesting
Hmm.
experience as well. And we moved our whole facility there and equipment and resources and had the team there. We continue to deliver product, at
Yeah.
a high clip. So, but nah, man, Yeezy was like a great experience, and it really was positive for me. I felt like my
Hmm.
personality was very much suited for it. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always had that mindset, and the way that kind of operated, sort of like a small business within its own, was, I thought, a very
Yeah.
good fit for me. And yeah, it's an experience that I'll definitely never forget
Yeah.
and have with me going forward.
Certainly, man. I mean, I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm blown away by your resume. You know, when you see, former head at Yeezy Innovation Lab, you think, okay, Yeezy, great. That's cool. This dude's cool. But like,
Yeah,
you have worked with so many brands, and I mean, you quite literally have traveled the world.
yeah.
Did you ever think that sneakers could do that for anyone?
No, man. If you would have told me, I was telling somebody this last night. If 6 years ago somebody told me that you were gonna live in India
Yeah.
and Cody, Wyoming, over
Right.
the
Yeah.
next 6 years, I would have never believed them in a million years. But
Yeah.
but no, man, I'm super blessed and really appreciative of it. And very similar to like how you hear athletes talk about their sport, whether it's basketball or soccer or whatever, gives
Hmm.
them that opportunity to see the world. Like I feel exactly the same way about footwear, man. These
Yeah.
things over my shoulder have really like allowed me to spread my wings and build incredible relationships with friends all over the world. And I feel
Yeah.
super fortunate to be able to go to places, whether it's, whether I'm in China or whether I'm in Vietnam or,
Hmm.
Portugal, or Argentina or Brazil or
Yeah.
South Korea or Japan. And I can pick up the phone and call somebody from a previous experience that I had there. And that
Yeah.
really makes a difference, especially being like a person of color, in a place like China, bro. Like ain't
Yeah.
a whole lot of us, over there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
let me be real clear about that, because
Yeah.
like, when you're there, you stick out like a sore thumb.
Mhm.
And I was always just very curious, about that kind about people. And I know they were curious about me there as well. And it also was like, it was kind of a bit of an icebreaker to talk to
Mm.
people, to really kind of understand like who they are. And I've always been a networker, like
Yeah.
that was like, I feel like that was always the one thing that I can control, is what came out of my mouth. So like every time I had an opportunity to get in front of somebody, it was all about networking and I guess selling yourself, if you will.
Hmm.
And I had that same approach in China. And whether I'm in an elevator at a hotel and somebody's looking at me and I'm like, hey, how you doing, man? What's your
Hmm.
how's your day going? Blah blah whatever. Oh, what are you doing
Hmm.
here? Oh, I own
Yeah.
a factory. Oh, word for real? Like, oh yeah, I'm in the shoe business. Oh, you should come check my factory out. Then I go check it
Yeah.
out and I'm producing Nike shoes and doing all this stuff. Now all of a sudden I got a new contact, right? And then that leads from one to the next to the next to the next. So
Yeah.
that's the way my mind has always worked. It was just
Hmm.
like constantly connecting the dots, constantly trying to build, relationships. And many times like I felt more comfortable in some of these other countries than I
Mm.
do right here in the United States sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, but and that and that's the truth. But yeah, man, no, it's a like I said, I'm super fortunate. I never would have imagined in a million years that like, I would have been able to see as much as I had because of, a thing that people like wearing on their feet.
Right.
But it's been an incredible, humbling experience that like, I cherish, and I really do try to sit back and sort of smell the roses from time to time and
Yeah.
revisit, just some of these stories that I'm sharing just to kind of remind myself what it took to get here.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the present because and the future because I think what you're doing right now might be your, yeah, and tell me if I'm wrong, might be your largest endeavor, right? Like and
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, talk to me, man. Factory Lab, what's up with it?
So FCTRY LAB, man. So, I've always been an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
Like I said, I started, when I got done with school, I immediately jumped into doing my own thing. I took a little bit of a break to work with Ye and
Hmm.
Adidas. And that was an incredible, experience for me. But I always had the intention on wanting to go back and work for myself,
Yeah.
again, it's always on top of mind. So, really thinking about like kind of what I wanted to do. And I've been a part of factories and creating them here in the United States and helped sort of run some in overseas and abroad. And I
Hmm.
knew I wanted to do something around there. And FCTRY LAB is basically a domestic footwear innovation lab
Hmm.
for design and developing footwear and realizing ideas and bringing them to life. We do the heavy
Right.
lifting for the concept, right? So like when
Mm.
you think of a shoe like, when you think of a shoe like this, right?
Hmm.
Like the runner boot,
Hmm.
right? Like this, like sure, you could sketch something like this on a piece of paper and then hand that sketch to a factory and say build it or send them a
Right.
tech pack or something. It's a whole other thing when you can actually sit down and really like design and create with your hands, right? There's only so much you can accomplish on a piece of paper, but
Right.
once you actually have like the product in front of you and the materials in front of you, that's where like the real magic starts to happen. And you start to figure out things or imagine things that you couldn't really visualize before. I always say, true innovation happens at the factory level. And it's true. Like, sometimes some of the greatest shoes that have been created, many of them have happened by accident, right? Like you
Mm.
see like material laying on the ground, then there's like a piece of rubber over there or something, and you put it together, you're like, oh snap, that looks kind of dope. Let's keep
Yeah.
like digging on that. And that's essentially what FCTRY LAB does. We do the heavy lift for the concept, for the design. We allow the creators to be the creators and just focus on that. It isn't so much about like scaling and mass production and volume, although that's the
Right.
end game. Of course, as a business and as I have investors, that's what our end game is. But you still need a place to be able to develop the idea, and that's essentially kind of what we do in a nutshell. And
Yeah.
we've been so I started the company in was it last summer,
Hmm.
April May 2022. And me and my co-founder Abi set a goal and were able to go out and have a pretty successful seed round of funding raised.
Yeah.
We were able to do a $6 million seed round fund, which is I think one of the largest of any Black founder of 2022. So
Yep.
that's just an incredible accomplishment in its own. And we have some awesome investors from
Hmm.
Slauson and Co, Black-based VC out of Los Angeles.
Hmm.
We have like the Relay Ventures, Aurelian Capital out of Chicago,
Hmm.
a couple brothers out of there. Shout out to Oliver and Cam. Then we have Elysian Park Ventures, who's the venture arm of the LA Dodgers. So we have some very, very well pedigreed investors and a consortium of NBA and NFL players, active and retired, who've come
Yeah.
in and invested and seen this and they see the same thing that we do, which is that this
Right.
is the future of not only footwear, but for a very, very unique business model that could probably apply to like other types of products, as
Yeah.
well. Uh, and it's amazing. I feel like all the work, everything that's been done over the years, over the 20 years or so of being in this business, has
Yeah.
led me to this one moment with FCTRY LAB and what we're building in Los Angeles.
No doubt, man. I mean, you said something interesting, and I'm mind blown over this. I got to be honest with you. I just think it's so cool, bro. Like, because I again, as I get older, sneakers are more art forms to me now, as
Yep.
opposed to, I'm not like hooping in them like I used. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Right.
like it's an art form. And when I hear about the inside, like you're saying, like, oh yeah, there's a design, but like with the knit running out, there may have been a piece of material on the ground. It's like a good combination of art and engineering, a
Yep.
little bit of science. Like,
Yep.
it's like this
Yeah.
gumbo of creativity. And I think it's really, really cool. Before I let you go, I do want to ask though. So if I'm fully understanding, like, so if you're a small business and you want to design and you have a product that you want to bring, are you the person to talk to say, hey, I want to come in, I need I need to create this? Are you the
Yeah.
person to talk to? Is that how that works?
Yes, we are, and our plan is, right now we're a bit overwhelmed with
Yeah,
with a lot of inquiries
right.
at the moment. But in theory, yes, we would
Yeah,
be a place that you could come to sort of to be able to develop that idea and take it into market. And
yeah.
I have some different ideas on how we can, listen, everyone. There's tons of people out there. There's kids out there who have great ideas, incredible
Mm-hmm.
ideas they want to take to market, and not everyone has the money to fund like these type of projects, and I get that.
Right.
And eventually my goal is to work towards a place where not only are we servicing the big brands and the celebrities and all that stuff
Mm-hmm.
and everything the way that we are now, but also be able to service the underserved, right?
Yeah,
Like who are very highly creative and have very, very sharp IQ when it comes to creativity and have incredible ideas, but be able to give them that platform to be able to
yeah,
take those ideas and bring them to life. And who knows, maybe we find the next Virgil Abloh or the next Jerry Lorenzo and give them that opportunity and that platform to cook and create and
yeah.
come up with their own concepts. So, I know mad people have reached out to us, and, we're getting back to those that we can, but there's only so much that we can do. But I have every intention as this company grows to
Mm-hmm.
be able to accommodate more and more of those kinds of people as well.
Super dope, man. Thank you so much for joining the show, bro. Like I could talk to you for 3 hours. Trust me, man. This is like super interesting, man. I encourage everybody to go follow you on social media. Go follow the company on social media. If you can, let them know where they can do that.
Yep, you can do that at FCTRY LAB. So it's FCTRY LAB, or you can follow me personally as well at the Omar Bailey, TheOmarBailey.
Let's make it happen, man. Thank you so much for joining the show. Let's talk again, okay?
Absolutely, man.
All
Appreciate
right.
it. Thank you so much.
No problem, brother. Listen, didn't I tell you guys he had a great story, man? I'm telling you, I was blown away listening to him, man. This just shows you how far this thing can go, man. It just with a dream, just a kid that was sketching and guessing the weight of sneakers. Who does that when they're a kid, man? Well, Omar does it. The type of person that ends up owning what's going to be one of the biggest factories in the U.S. I'm calling it right now, man. Shouts out to him. Thank you so much for joining the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, we'll be back next week with more guests, super dope topics. Just keep it locked. I told you things are going to be cool this season. We off to a hell of a start. I wasn't lying, all right? If you want to follow me, MSR_Adam, MSR_Adam. Follow the squad. On My Feet Network, the @On My Feet Network. And, of course, follow the team Up On Game Network. Follow us on all social platforms. Remember to mind your mental health. That's super important. I say it every week because I mean it. Mind your mental health. Mind your physical health. You know what it is. You know why you need to do that. But more importantly, please never forget and always continue to be great. I'm up out of here.